What's up, everybody? Platinum Collection stuff, and this video we'll talk about an introduction to macronutrients and proper balance between exercise and nutrition. And again, we're gonna be talking about the Destiny gameplay. This is not from the limited event for the I forgot what it's called, the Iron Curtain Iron. But it's not from the limited maps that were only live for 2 hours. This will be on the moon. And yeah, so I guess the first thing is macronutrients. If you don't know, macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbohydrates. 1 gram of protein is equivalent to 4 calories. 1 gram of carbohydrates is equivalent to 4 calories, and 1 gram of fat is equivalent to 9 calories. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, then I should just eat less fat since it's more calories. Well, if you've been reading anything recently in the mainstream media, you will have picked up on this already, but it's not necessarily true that less fat means more fat loss. Because in a weird way, fat doesn't necessarily make you fat. It's and it's more complicated than calories in, calorie out, although that is most of what it will be for people who are casually watching what they eat. Opening up the gameplay here, I got lucky. Got a nice interceptor kill. Felt pretty good about that. But yeah, so when you're thinking about, well, how much do I eat? It's dependent on a few things. How often you're exercising, your existing metabolism and things like that. What I would recommend is to go to a website like bodybuilding.com and look for some articles there. Another thing I actually recommend more so is to download Kalechi Opara's nutritionist app in the iTunes store or Google Play store, because that app will set you up beautifully. It's like $4, maybe less, and it was probably the best purchase I've ever made. It'll calculate all your macros for you, whatever you need to take, whatever you need to eat, and just follow that, and you'll be golden, actually. Now, a lot of people think that if they exercise really, really hard, then they can eat whatever they want. Now, some lucky bastards have metabolism so high that maybe that is true for them for the majority of their life. But typical individuals, such as myself, generally have to have a proper balance between nutrition and exercise. You know, a lot of people say 70-30, 80-20. I think I'm more on the 70-30, maybe even, I don't know, like 75-25 maybe, because exercise is really important, particularly weightlifting, resistance training, because it's just beneficial overall. It's a melee kill, right? Because when you do resistance training, if you target the proper muscle groups, there's a few things that happen, right? If you increase your muscle mass, you increase your fat burning capability, because the more muscle you have, the more fat you'll burn. One of the most important muscle groups, there's 2 really important muscle groups in my opinion. The chest, or sorry, the back and the lower body, the posterior. The back, because it's one of the biggest muscle systems on your body, and it just like your legs. And so if you build a nice strong back, now I'm not saying that you should only work out back, but I'm saying this is like my top 2 picks. The reason is because back is so large that it requires a lot of fuel to sustain itself. I'm totally speaking from what I've read. I'm not a credentialed professional, but I'm sure you'll find something similar. So having a healthy back development is a weird way to put it, but building back will help burn more calories, if you want to put it that way. And legs are important. Posterior is important, particularly because it helps injury prevention, just in general. Squats, deadlifts, lunges. Building a strong lower body will prevent you from injuring yourself with like really silly tasks like lifting luggage or moving boxes or something. Because if you can build the muscles around your spine and you can build the muscles around your hip and things like that, then you're a lot less likely to hurt yourself doing everyday things, particularly when you get older. So that's one of the reasons I recommend lower body no matter what. But what does all this have to do with nutrition and everything? Well, I said I'll stick with 75-25. 75% of... Man, that was just embarrassing. 75% of how your health outlook should be focused on nutrition. 25% of it should be focused on exercise. So eating relatively healthy is really important. I say relatively because I'm not saying you should be super strict and bring Tupperware with you everywhere you go and fish, chicken, and rice is all you eat. I'm saying relatively healthy as in, yeah, you count your calories, or you kind of count your calories, and you're aware of what you're eating, and you're not eating too much junk. If you don't put shit in your body, you won't be shit. Like, you are what you eat, right? So you can still have cake if you want it, or you can still have Oreos if you really need them. But just be aware of that kind of stuff, so that if you have an Oreo or 2 Oreos, that's like, I think it's something like 6 or 7 grams of fat and probably 17 or 20 grams of carbohydrates. Just keep note of that and know that, well, maybe at dinner you shouldn't have that extra piece of bread, right? So thinking about your food choices and monitoring that way. That's just some advice. I mean, everybody approaches nutrition differently. A lot of people really, really like ketogenic or high-fat, low-carb diets because they find them easier to abide by, and you don't have to track as much. So that basically means that typically someone of average weight for a male, let's say 170 pounds maybe, typically would eat anywhere between 50 and 70 grams of fat and anywhere between 160 to 300 grams of carbohydrates. And as you can see, those ranges are very wide. It's because I'm just going off my head, top of my head. But ketogenic dieters will, let's say it's the same male, 170 pounds, instead of eating 50 to 70 grams of fat, he'll eat 90 to 112, 120 grams of fat, and then probably only limit his carbohydrate intake sub 140, probably even below 120 grams of carbohydrates, and moderate protein for ketogenic. A lot of people like it because they find it easier to abide by, and a lot of times they'll include a refeed day, where since they're not eating carbs, oh, that was actually not too bad. Since they're not eating carbs throughout the week, they might have Saturday or Sunday where they're like, okay, I'm gonna have some extra rice or extra popcorn or something to keep me sane. I'm going to take a break for a second and talk about my loadout here. I mentioned in my last video, for me on the moon, I like to stick with the auto rifle because, I mean, it's what I can manage. Same thing with Venus. Hope I have some gameplay of that, but I doubt it. And before we get back to nutrition and all that stuff, I want to apologize for the sound quality of the commentary because I'm using the Sony's packed-in mic with the PlayStation 4. And don't get me wrong, I love my PlayStation 4, but the mic is shit. I need to invest in a decent one. And the other thing you may have noticed is I use a different intro for this video. I'm trying to see which one I like more. If you care enough, you can leave a comment about it. The PlayStation intro is cool, the Share Factory intro is cool, whatever. I really like Share Factory for quick edits and things like that. Obviously, if I wanted to be real serious about the commentary quality, I would do it on my computer because I have a better mic. Whatever. This will do for now. Okay, so back to nutrition. Yeah, so 75, 25. I mean, it's not like I'm a fitness model. I'm just someone who I consider myself in shape, but I also consider myself pretty stringent in terms of my eating, to the point where it drives some of the people around me nuts, which I apologize for. But in my opinion, it's not all that difficult. Got murdered again. It's not all that difficult to eat healthy. I think what's difficult is to break out of habits. So if you're used to eating, if you're used to going to Chipotle, for example, and you're used to getting a burrito every single time with everything on it, it's hard to break out of that because that's what you are accustomed to. That's what you like. Anything less than that just seems kind of crazy, right? Well, how I see eating out is if I can get the nutrition facts and I can figure out what fits the day. It doesn't mean I have to count the calories. Sometimes I'm a little bit lenient. Like tonight, I'm going to go get sushi, and I'm not counting that at all. But that happens to me once in a blue moon. Like, I almost always count what I'm eating. But at Chipotle, for example, instead of getting a burrito with everything in it, maybe just get a burrito with white rice and it's reeking havoc right now in this interceptor. Maybe just get a burrito with white rice and chicken. You don't need all that extra stuff. And maybe even if you want to spoil yourself, add some guacamole. If you go to the Chipotle website, they have an awesome nutrition calculator, and you can see what's in your food if you have everything in there. Don't get me wrong, I love going crazy at Chipotle and getting a delicious stacked burrito, but like sour cream is something like 30 to 40 grams of fat in a serving of what they put in there. The cheese is, I think it's 8 grams of fat, I want to say, for a serving, which isn't too bad. Brown rice has a little bit more fat than white rice, and there's other reasons why white rice is actually better for you than brown rice, just less filling. And so, like, I know I'm rambling, but if you approach nutrition this way when you're eating out, it becomes a little bit easier to manage yourself when you're not at home and you can cook for yourself. In my ideal world, everybody is at least aware of what they're putting into their bodies. They don't have to be crazy strict about it, but at least they're, you know, mindful of what they're doing, not just for themselves, but for the people around them, because I've seen it a lot, particularly in my family. I have some, I hate to say it, I love them very much, but I have some obese relatives, and it's tough on everyone because, you know, we've had some serious medical issues, and it's put a lot of burden on their siblings and on the kids and things like that. And things have since gotten a little bit better. One of my uncles actually, I wouldn't say his condition was necessarily directly due to his obesity, but after extensive treatment, he lost a ton of weight. Not necessarily the most healthy way, it's just because he was in bed rest for so long. But now he's being a lot more deliberate about being healthy, and he's seen a huge turnaround. So that's really positive. But in the meantime, all the medical expenses, all the all the surgeries and things like that, it was really tough on his siblings. My dad was just a mess because he was always worried about him. And so when you're thinking about health, you might not be, you know, obese, but you also want to prevent potential issues down the line, where, you know, when you're older, your metabolism slows down. I'm trying really hard to enunciate. And once your metabolism slows down, you store fat a lot easier. I know I'm not doing a very good job in this video of commentating, I'm sorry. But you store fat a lot easier, and, you know, down the line, it's going to get harder and harder to stay healthy. So, my opinion, start early. This video is a little bit longer than the last one, but still a little bit too short to cover everything in its entirety. I really want to start a discussion with everybody. I'd like to do another live stream sometime for some question and answer. If you have any questions about nutrition or about the beta, just leave your comments below. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope to see you in my next video.